Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited a Pennsylvania ammunition factory on Sunday as part of a countrywide trip aimed at rallying support for Kyiv. Howitzer shells are one of the most critically needed munitions for Ukraine to fend off Russian ground forces. Production has ramped up over the past year, with Washington sending more than 3 million shells.
I'm very honored to be here with my team and started, as I said to colleagues, started my visit to America from your city, from your plant, from Pennsylvania, and just some number. You said that 400 people work here, but I wanted very much to come here and to thank you. 400 people saved millions of Ukrainians.
Zelensky's visit kicks off a busy week in the US. He is expected to speak at the UN General Assembly annual gathering on Tuesday and Wednesday and meet with US President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on Thursday.
Israel has carried out dozens of fresh airstrikes on southern Lebanon as the Israeli military calls on people living near Hezbollah targets to evacuate immediately. The Israel Defense Forces has also warned Lebanese civilians against allowing Hezbollah militants to use their homes to store weapons.
כל תושבי הכפרים בלבנון. בזמן הקרוב אנחנו נתקוף מטרות טרור בלבנון. אנחנו קוראים לכל מי שנמצא בסמוך לנכסים או בתוך בתים בהם חיזבאללה מסתיר אמצעי לחימה. אנחנו קוראים לכם להתרחק מהם מיד. אני חוזר על זה. אנחנו קוראים לכם להתרחק מהם מיד. זאת לשם ביטחונכם והגנתכם. חיזבאללה מסכן אתכם ואת משפחותיכם.
The strikes follow Sunday's heavy exchange of fire, during which Hezbollah launched more than 100 rockets, missiles and drones into northern Israel. Hezbollah's rocket attack came after an Israeli airstrike on a Beirut suburb on Friday killed a top Hezbollah military commander and more than a dozen Hezbollah members, along with dozens of civilians, including women and children.
An explosion in a coal mine in eastern Iran killed at least 52 workers and injured 17 others, local sources said on Sunday. The disaster marks one of the worst mining incidents in the country's history, as others remained missing hours after the blast. Weeping miners stood alongside mine cars that brought up the bodies of their colleagues, all covered in coal dust. The Iranian Red Crescent Society is working on rescuing those still trapped below the surface. Authorities blamed the blast on a leak of methane gas. Such gases are common in mining, though modern safety measures call for ventilation and other measures to protect workers. It wasn't immediately clear what safety measures were in place at the mine in Tabas.
Cyprus hopes to join the European power grid by 2028 or at the latest 2030, following an interstate agreement signed with Greece. After months of negotiations and finalized by the Cypriot president during a visit to Athens, the deal was signed by energy ministers from Greece and Cyprus this weekend. Cyprus's energy lines will be joined to Crete and then pass through the Mediterranean to mainland Greece and the rest of Europe. The goal of the project will be contributing towards lifting the energy isolation of Cyprus, as well as promoting the Greek strategic goal of becoming a clean energy transit hub. Reaching the agreement proved a challenge amidst delays and disagreements between both parties. Points of contention included final shared costs, due diligence, and cost-benefit considerations. However, rapid progress was made over the past few weeks in bridging the gap and working out a deal. The cable will link networks from Europe and Cyprus in a project costing €1.9 billion and later stretched to Israel. The European Union will fund it with the sum of 657 million euros. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrat Party narrowly won an election in the eastern German state of Brandenburg. 3 weeks after the far-right Alternative for Germany made gains in 2 other East German states, the SPD came out on top. Results published by the State Electoral Administration say the SPD won 30.9%, while the AfD came second with 29.2%.
It is an important victory for me, it's an important victory for my party, and it's an important victory for the state of Brandenburg, because it's one of the biggest goal for us in the beginning of our campaign was to provide stability.
The SPD's victory brought a reprieve to Scholz, whose 3-party governing coalition has fared poorly in elections so far this year. Scholz has expressed his desire to be his party's candidate for Chancellor in next year's federal election, with this weekend's vote also being watched for what it might signal about his political future.
The October Beer Festival is in full swing in Germany, but one thing might be missing in some people's mugs and bottles: alcohol. There's been a growing trend in revelers in the country seeking out an alternative to booze with a similar taste, but without the risk of a hangover. The National Statistics Office says that the amount of non-alcoholic beer produced for sale more than doubled in 10 years, from 2013 to 2023. Velvet Bar has been offering alcohol-free cocktails since it opened 7 years ago. Bartender Ruben Nidek says there's been a growing amount of people asking for the drinks and more discussion about them in the industry.
And bar publications like on non-alcoholic products, on how to create a non-alcoholic drink. So there's definitely an increase in that. And it used to be among bartenders, you would boo upon making non-alcoholic drinks. Well, I think it's fun and a challenge.
One brewery in Berlin told Euronews its non-alcoholic beer is one of its most in-demand bottled beers. And in Munich, the home of Oktoberfest, an alcohol-free pop-up beer garden opened this year. Statistics from the National Breweries Association shows that there has been a steady decline in beer sales since 2015. The biggest drop in 2020, when the pandemic forced bars to close down. But numbers haven't recovered since. The trend comes amid louder alarm bells over the risks of booze. Last year, the World Health Organization said there was no safe amount of alcohol to drink. It says the substance can cause at least 7 types of cancer. Ruben says people's concerns over their well-being seem to be translating into consumer choices.
I think people are more aware of the health impact it might have. And also a bar ages with its patrons. So I think that as we as a bar grow older, on average our patrons are a little bit older. So there is a bit more of a responsible consumption of alcohol.
A biodiversity initiative launched by nature and environmental protection groups in Switzerland did not succeed in a referendum held on Sunday. Over 60% of voters rejected the idea, which aimed to increase green spaces untouched by human development. Switzerland is renowned for its pristine lakes and majestic alpine peaks, but its plant and animal life is under great threat. The initiative called for public funding to encourage farmers to set aside lands and waterways to help wild landscape develop. It also would have prohibited the construction of new railway lines through protected dry meadows. Proponents pointed to threats to Switzerland's bees, frogs, birds, and other wildlife, as well as dwindling natural resources. The federal government and many rural voters opposed the plan, arguing it was too expensive. €630 million is already spent on biodiversity protection each year. Another proposal on pension reforms was also rejected in Sunday's referendums. The plan would have required employers and workers to raise their contributions into compulsory occupational funds, an idea widely opposed by unions. Referendums take place 4 times a year in Switzerland, far more often than any other European country.
Around 180,000 motorcyclists gathered in Portugal to get their helmets blessed. At the Fatima Shrine in the central part of the country, this year's annual pilgrimage of the blessing of helmets was the largest ever. The annual pilgrimage is organised by the Blessing of Helmets Association as well as various national and international motorcycle clubs.
Vir aqui é como fosse uma salvação. Vim buscar forças para a gente conseguir enfrentar os problemas da vida. E aqui é abrigo.
É mais ano de benção dos capacetes, para a gente estar com mais calma na estrada, sermos benzidos. E é mais facto, é mais ano.
The pilgrimage starts with a parade of motorcyclists carrying Our Lady of Fatima's statue next to the Basilica of the Holy Trinity. Afterwards, there's a mass where the bikers' helmets are blessed. There are thousands of motorcycle accidents in Portugal each year, with hundreds wounded and more than 120 killed in 2023.